Hello, Michael White. Today I'm going to be reading from the 6th grade science book, Chapter 1, Lesson 1, The Skills of Science. My Planet Diary. Underwater Science. Imagine being an explorer who has truly gone where no one has gone before. Imagine seeing pale crabs as large as cats and tall spirals of bamboo coral that glow blue when touched. Imagine walking in the ocean nearly 380 meters below the surface, or swimming so close to a whale you can touch it. Well, none of this is imaginary for Dr. Sylvia Earle. Dr. Earle is a marine biologist, a scientist who studies ocean life. She has spent more than 7,000 hours underwater, studying everything from algae to humpback whales. She is also an inventor, who developed submersibles, a type of submarine, so she could study life in the ocean close up. What are the skills of science? Dr. Earle is a scientist, or a person who practices science. Science is a way of learning about the natural world. Scientists gather information and explore the natural world using different science skills. The skills of science include observing, inferring, predicting, classifying, evaluating, making models, and conducting scientific investigations. Observing. Scientists are always observing things. Observing means using one or more of your senses to gather information. It's the most important science skill. Dr. Earle, for example, has spent many hours observing ocean plants and animals, like those shown in Figure 1. When she observes such sea creatures, she often has to make a fine discrimination between very similar organisms. By observing ocean life, she learned things such as which fish eat plants and which fish eat animals. Observations can be either quantitative or qualitative. A quantitative observation deals with numbers or amounts. When you measure your height or your weight, or you notice that there are 8 cars parked on your street, you are making a quantitative observation. A qualitative observation deals with descriptions that cannot be expressed in numbers. Noticing that a bird is blue or that a watermelon tastes sweet are qualitative observations. Inferring. Unlike many ocean scientists, Dr. Earle has actually lived underwater. She spent 2 weeks in an underwater habitat near the Virgin Islands. There she studied fish and their behavior. One thing Dr. Earle noticed was that different fish eat different things. For example, parrotfish eat seaweed that grows on dead coral, while the damselfish eat a certain type of algae. Dr. Earle also noticed that none of the fish in the area she was studying ate the feathery green leaves of a plant called caulerpa. She reasoned that although the plant looked good, it probably didn't taste good to the fish in the area. Dr. Earle was not observing when she reasoned that caulerpa didn't taste good to fish. She was inferring. When you explain or interpret the things you observe, you are inferring or making an inference. Inferring is not guessing. Inferences are based on reasoning from what you already know. Inferences could also be based on assumptions you make about your observations. Predicting. Dr. Earle also followed humpback whales in the Hawaiian Islands. The more time she spent with the whales, the more she understood their behavior. Sometimes she could predict what a particular whale would do next. Predicting means making a statement or claim about what will happen in the future, based on past experience or evidence. Inferences and predictions are closely related. While inferences are attempts to explain what is happening or has happened, predictions are statements or claims about what will happen. See what predictions you can make about the whales in Figure 3. Classifying. On one expedition, Dr. Earle was part of a team gathering information about plants found in the Gulf of Mexico. Team members collected samples from different underwater areas and took detailed notes about the temperature, salt content, and amount of light present. They then classified the information they collected to make it easier to understand. Classifying is the grouping together of items that are alike in some way. For example, the team grouped together in a data table the type of algae found in each area. Making models. A data table is one way to present information. A model is another way. For example, Dr. Earle's team could have made a model showing the temperature and depth of the ocean at each algae collection point. Making models involves creating representations of complex objects or processes. Some models can be touched, such as a map. Others are in the form of mathematical equations or computer programs. Models help people study things that can't be observed directly. By using models, scientists can share information that would otherwise be difficult to explain. Evaluating. One of the reasons that Dr. Earle studied humpback whales was to see if she could determine if certain whale songs, a series of loud grunts and squeals repeated over and over, were associated with certain whale behaviors. Suppose she found that a whale sang a certain song each time it fed. What would this observation have told her about whale behavior? To reach a conclusion, Dr. Earle would first need to evaluate her observations and data. Evaluating involves comparing observations and data to reach a conclusion about them. For example, Dr. Earle would have needed to compare the whale's behaviors with those of other whales in the group to reach a conclusion. Conducting scientific investigations. Science is a continuous cycle of asking questions about the natural world, looking for answers, solving problems, and forming new ideas. A scientific investigation is the way in which a scientist studies the natural world. First, you ask a question. Then you figure out a way to find the answer. Finally, you perform the actions necessary to find that answer. Recall that Dr. Earle first observed that bamboo coral glowed blue when touched, as shown in the first photo of Figure 4. Then other scientists began to investigate how and why the coral glows. Scientific investigations may occur in different ways, but they usually involve most or all of the science skills.